This week on the channel, we're going to be reviewing the Christmas special, The Phantom issue number 2012. We've got an amazing cover done by Alex Troop. That's the front cover, and then we got the back cover, and our two stories for this issue is the two American stories, Return to the Temple of the Gods and the Avice has landed. So let's get into this comic book and let's have a look at these stories. The Return of the Temple of the Gods. This story starts off with Diana saying, "Darling, are we planning on a dinner? You've been at that screen all evening." "Have I? Sorry to be so preoccupied, but I've been trying to sort something out, frame by frame." "What's this?" "Hard to say. Some think it's a teaser for a horror movie, others a hoax publicity stunt. Let's see it." "Are you sure? If these are special effects, they're really done really well. You may not appreciate how realistic they are." "Rap slash feel." "Oh my god. How horrible." "Now then, you mentioned dinner. What kind of meat are we having?" "Grilled chum slash." "I don't think I want to have dinner anymore." "Well, if you look closely, there's someone in the cabin. Someone peering out as the beast tears the man to pieces. Perhaps a member of the film crew we weren't supposed to see." So it is a stunt, and of course it is. It has to be. I mean, that horrible half-human animal, there's no such thing. "Darling, there's no such thing. There was the last time I saw one." "Diana? Odd. I'm always the first one up." "Well, guess where we're headed? We're headed to the Temple of the Gods." So they go to the island of Vendon, and each time they have like a little stoppage, the Phantom tries to lose Diana because he's basically trying to protect Diana from seeing something that potentially she doesn't probably need to see, but it's also about her wanting to know what this person went through with this monster. And the Phantom goes into the temple alone, he thinks, and then he hears a sound. And it's Devil, and then it's Diana. And they say, what are you doing here?" "Well, I knew you were going to leave me because I know you too well, and I want to come and see for my own eyes what is this temple of gods all about." So they go through the little hallway of the ancient Egyptian gods. They tell a story about these scuba divers wanting to go and find the temple of gods, and there's a other story connected to this based in 2005. The story was done in. They're still talking about the Egyptian gods. They get to this door. There's all these hissing, hoofing, and there's all these animals out there in the darkness. They're watching the Phantom and Diana. They go through the next part of the chamber, which is the part where there was this massive battle fought between man and almost humans and animals. It's a war raged on for quite some time. The Phantom goes through there. He reaches what looks to be mummified remains, and then he tells the story of how the skull got on to the wall. This is the place, Diana. The third Phantom left our mark here in blood. His own, I suppose. We'll never fully know what the third Phantom went through in this place. My son is prepared to be the fourth Phantom, but I must survive this day. Defy all doom in the name of the legend itself. For however long I can remain alive in this place, I am the legend. A ghost who walks, a man who cannot die. For phantoms yet to be, the skull mark has been encrusted into the wall. God's teeth, what a fight. And we're back to the present day. We choose to go through, Devil's gone through here, they're going to go through here. So they go up the stairs, the Phantom feels that there is someone coming behind him. They wait to see who it is, and then she appears. She's not all what it seems. Normally you think it's like an actual human, but no. The Temple of Gods is something else. Some otherworldly creatures live in the Temple of the Gods, and that is the Almost Humans. Yep, it's another one of those characters. Almost Humans, eh? This sort of reminds me of when people start talking about the Islander and Stego, his and hers, and whether people actually like those characters. I have a feeling this actually is sort of the same thing, but I actually quite liked this story because it's an element of the story and the characters that we don't normally see that often in the Phantom comic book series and the dailies and the Sundays in itself. We don't normally see these type of characters that often because they're normally just, a couple of stories, then you forget about them for a little while, and then they all of a sudden pop back up. Then we're taken to the crime scene, you could say, where the person died from that animal that attacked that human. And then this almost human was said that not in Germany, you won't, and you mustn't think she saved her own life. I saved her. And I think it is quite smart that she's not opening up until she knows the whole truth, and that she's still not giving away information. That's how most of the stories end up going for longer, perhaps. She shoots the animal. She takes the Phantom and Diana back to the Chamber of the Almost Humans. The Chamber of the Almost Humans is still in the 18th century, industrial era, cars and uniforms and all that kind of stuff. And then this same person, whilst the Phantom and Diana are settling in for the night at this really old looking hotel, meanwhile, this almost human is saying to these three people, who you could say people, almost humans, I suspect the human called Walker made his way to the gates of the domain in secrecy. There undetected, he saw the image of that champion of old. He then adopted that image as his own for purposes yet to be revealed. So they're suspect. They're thinking, oh, what are these people doing? He looks like the champion of old, and I don't know why he's down here portraying our champion. Why is he doing it? So then they have a person that's watching them because they're not really that inviting, you could say, because when you're got this other type of people and they're coming into your own world and they don't look like you, so that all of a sudden there's a little bit of suspicion going on with them. So the Phantom starts asking questions. He wants this other person also gets a deal in with the Phantom. He goes back. He has a bit of blood coming out of his nose, and because he's been punched and stuff. And he goes back and she says to him, what are you doing here? You were ordered to guard the humans. I was guarding the humans. One of them didn't like it very much. The one who styles himself after the old champion of old. Get back to your post. Your rifle, what did you do with it? He has it. I'm going home now. Oh, why would you want to stand out in the night when you just want to go and have a sleep? So they've eventually find the lady. She's working in the fields, and they reveal stuff about the old champion. The Phantom finally works it all out. They go to a nice dinner, named after the champion of old with the Phantom's face, and they're trying to convince the girl to come back to normal society. The Phantom then goes and speaks to the three people. They find the other way out to the Temple of the Gods. They try and convince her to come back. She doesn't want to come back. She wants to study these people and help them. And so, an almost human farewell at the gates of the domain. Diana and the Phantom come back out of the Temple of the Gods, and they eventually find the other way to the entrance which the other humans had found. Then we have a flashback to where it all started. It started the night her family put on a dinner party to welcome her home. To my daughters a true scholar and adventurer, and the jungle traveler who found her and brought her home to us, to Mina and her Walker. Because originally she'd come and she wanted to try and find this temple of the gods, and she came to the deep woods and she had a run-in with the phantom, obviously, and eventually the phantom got her back to her own family. But the thing is that she was eventually nearly going to be taken. That memory was going to be script clean, but the phantom feels like she is a good enough person, so he keeps that memory there. And then at the end of it all, she ends up remembering it all because it's never been wiped clean. She sees the ring worn by the same man like no other, a man not of this world. When that fever felled me in the jungle, I think I may have had a dream about him. So she believes she has had a fever dream, and that's where it all ends. Until this story, at the start of it all, and you see the footage. And so that they go on to that adventure. The Phantom says, "So you're saying I should get used to the idea that Mina's out here alone? It's what adventurers do, isn't it?" So the story is all done. It's done, it's dusted. And then we have this next story called The Advice Has Landed. There's this big spaceship, it blasts off into the world, the space, and then we have there's something that I don't necessarily agree with this story. I don't believe that Phantom stories should have real world characters. I don't think that Phantom stories should be influenced by like our own world, because you can use people and you can put them into the stories, but those characters that you're using from the real world, you're not actually thinking, oh, we can actually put this into the story. That's not original. I don't think that's original. And I think that you got to, if you're creating the story, obviously I'm not a professional writer, but if you're creating the story, you're creating characters that have original purpose that aren't necessarily from the world. This character that we're about to talk about, called Ian Mollusk. Who does that remind us all? Who does that look like? That does not, absolutely does not have anything to do with Elon Musk. How does that not have anything to do with Elon Musk? Like, come on, spaceships, look at the face, look at the Ian Mollusk. I know that Lee Falk, a lot of his stories were inspired by true events happening in our own world. And I know that this particular story is inspired by things that are happening in our real world. Like, you've got the spaceship, that's obviously SpaceX. This Phantom is also having a discussion with President Luaga, Lamanda Luaga. And Mollusk is wanting to get a piece of Bengala, and he's wanting to turn that piece of Bengala into, well, his world. And this spaceship, then it goes off course, it lands in Bengala, and Mollusk wants his spaceship back. And inside that spaceship, well, what do we have? It's not the Phantom. Then explores where that spaceship is, and he says, it's not an escape route. It's a labyrinth. So he then goes and finds this machine. This machine was the rover that was meant to be sent to the moon. Then who does this look like? That looks like that other famous space dude. Who does that look like? So the Phantom's barreling this so-called machine that actually talks. Bengala's president comes and has a chat to the Phantom, and then the Phantom wants to get back at seeing what this machine can do. It turns into a dog that has its own reflexes of a dog. The rover thinks that it's actually on the moon, so anytime it sees someone, it's going to attack. So this part of the land of Bengala is going to become its own little thing at the end of this story. And the robot dog attacks the horse. the horse runs away. It tries to go back to its own little machine. No, the other machine wants to blow the Phantom up. It is actually, the Phantom thinks that, oh, it's actually behaving by itself, but no, it's not. It's being controlled by one of the people that was actually on one of the space teams, and she's actually inside the robot, and she doesn't agree with what the person inside is doing. And there's this little robot that comes out of the rover, and it says, "You're too late, gunman." And they said, advice would never achieve great things here on the moon. It literally thinks it's on the moon. And then we have moon-like textures. The Phantoms, I think, portrayed into this moon-like. This is quite a weird story. We're on the moon now, but we're actually on the jungle side of things. And there's this like robot animatronic type thing telling the Phantom that, no, this is where we are. We're not actually in the jungle. And then we have, "Good day to you, sir. Management is having a free speech timeout. Stand by." From here, it sounded as if your civics lesson went over poorly. I'm sure he was hearing it for the first time that you cannot always have your own way around things. And that is true. And all he wants is just his own machine back. And he also wants to buy Bengala, which Bengala is not up for sale. And he doesn't like it, so he's throwing an absolute tantrum, pretty much. And eventually this, you could say human robot, finally shuts down. And that is our Christmas special. A good story followed up with a very, very weird story. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you for watching. And as always, check this amazing cover out by Alex Troop. It looks really, really good. I can't get over it. It's really, really amazing. Keep Phantom Caving, stay safe, and you will see me on another time on the channel.